Okay, so this demonstration is for the leather or vinyl seam sample. The template that you should be using is a straight seam template. And we need to cut 2 layers of this. With leather, we do not pin the seams. We use clips for sewing together. I'm going to use a piece of repurposed leather that came from a chair. You can use leather or vinyl. These are samples of the same seam being stitched. This one is the same leather. These 2 are vinyl. Okay, so what we're going to do is tape the template down so that we're not damaging or putting holes in the leather, because that will not recover. We also do not press the leather or vinyl. We use the glue to flatten the seams. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 of this template. And you don't need to measure for grain when you're cutting the leather or vinyl, because we cut for no waste with this. The only exception to that is you can see on this vinyl, which imitates the crocodile, how it does go on a grain. So if we were cutting a handbag, it would need to follow that grain. Okay, and I'm going to cut one more piece. Okay, make sure that you are testing out on a swatch of your fabric just to make sure that your stitch is correct before you actually start stitching. Normally when we're stitching with leather or vinyl, we use a heavier weight upholstery fabric, which is usually a synthetic fabric, to stitch these, but I am not using that for this sample. I'm just using the regular all-purpose thread. So we do not put pins in the leather or vinyl so that we can protect the fabric. We actually use clips. So you can use bulldog clips or these large metal clips. I'm going to use the small clips here just to hold the leather together, or you can actually just kind of hold it while you're stitching. Again, just make sure you're removing them before you start stitching. So this first stitch is going to be a 1/2 inch seam. I'm stitching with number 2 stitch, and I am going to back tack, and it is very thick, just keep in mind. Also, when we stitch with upholstery, if we were doing an entire project, we would be stitching with a ballpoint needle, which would be a heavier weight needle. Okay, and I've picked up a little bit of slack. This leather has aged, so I'm sure it's stretched out a little bit. And this should be stitched at 1/2 inch, but to not waste leather, I'm going to go ahead and stitch it at 1/4, which is fine. And I did pick up some slack here, so what I'm going to do is just even up my sample here. If you're not comfortable cutting a straight line, just go ahead and draw a chalk guideline and then cut it. Okay, so here's our seam, and the next step is we're going to go ahead and glue it. Okay, so I am going to use the rubber cement to glue both the seam allowance and where the seam allowance will lay on the sample. And if we were making a completely leather garment or accessory, all of your seams would be treated this way, and then top stitch. Don't want too much glue, just enough, because this is a contact glue for both surfaces to adhere once they're dry. So we'll let it dry for a second, maybe more like 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, so now that this is dry, I'm going to go in and take my finger and kind of finger press it first. To flatten the seam. Okay, and again, rubber cement is a contact glue, so both surfaces have to be dry in order for this to stick. If it's still wet, it will not stick. Okay, so I can see that it's already sticking, and we should be using a rubber mallet. It's the end of the semester, so I don't know where mine is. You can also use a hammer. I'm just going to use a muslin to just kind of protect the seam. So I'm going to go in and flatten the seam. On both the back and the front. Okay, so you can really see the difference now it's flat. And I'm hammering right where the seam is. So it's nice and flat. Okay, so next step is I'm going to go ahead and do my top stitch just to secure and flatten my stitch. We're going to be on number 3 stitch for the top stitch. And I'm using my top stitching foot, so I'm going to line this up so that the edge of my foot is right next to the seam, so my stitch will be about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam, because I won't be able to see my seam guideline. Okay, and I'm going to just have to push it a little bit to get it started in the back tack because it is very thick. And you can see that one side of my leather, because it's reclaimed, is kind of aged, and one side is not. Okay, I'm going to clip my threads and then go into stitch the other side. Again, the side I'm stitching, I want on my left, or to the left of the foot. And I'm going to line, I'm sorry, to the right of the foot. I'm going to line my left side up with the seam, the left side of my foot up with the seam. Okay, so for this sample, if you have a metallic or gel pen or marker or paint marker, you can write right on the sample. Otherwise, just put a piece of tape on it so that you can write and label what the sample is.